Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogley's Guitar Show. I've got a really rare one for you guys today. This is a 2010 Gibson Les Paul Cobraburst. This one has a very similar story to another really interesting Les Paul called the Black Widow. At first you might think, hey, this is a cool Les Paul custom, right? No, it's not a custom because it doesn't have binding on the back. But it has a custom neck on it, so it must be a custom. No, this is actually based off of an R7. Yes, that's right, this is most closely related to a gold top 57 reissue. If you don't believe me, here's the certificate of authenticity. R7. So do they mean like a 57 custom reissue? No, because those have mahogany tops, and this is very clearly maple. So essentially, it is a 57 reissue standard, but with ebony fretboard and the custom attributes on the headstock. Everything else about this is familiar though, except for one thing. These are chambered. It's a chambered out mahogany body, and that's how these things are modern, and it's 70s because for whatever reason, Sam Ash seems to like these Gibson Schaller tuners, which I'm a big fan of being a 70s and 80s Gibson guy. These are constructed with a historic long neck tenon and an ABR1 bridge. You get burst bucker pickups stock in these that are uncovered, and what looks like chrome hardware to me. So which is cooler, the Cobraburst or the Black Widow? They're built the exact same way. It's got the quilted maple top, you can see they're very similar on both. It has a chambered out mahogany body. They just have binding along the top, but you'll see that the Black Widow, yeah, it's a little bit more special because, you know, again, this thing birthed the whole Widow series where you get colored lacquer over the binding. The Cobraburst, unfortunately, did not get anything too special in that aspect, but the pickups are both uncovered. You've got the ABR1 bridge, speed knobs. I mean, they definitely are very similar looking guitars. Spec-wise, they both still have the ebony fretboard with mother-of-pearl inlays. They also both have that blank black truss rod cover. I mean, it's single ply, so it really kind of sticks out as being different. The back sides are black on both of them here, but here's where these things are just awesome. You get the colored stingers. And this is the feature that made the Sam Ash exclusive original ones different from all other Cobrabursts and Widow series guitars. This one, you get the Black Widow spider with a red stinger, and our new one here, a silver stinger with a very vicious looking cobra there. So isn't this just a beautiful sight, both of them together? Both the Black Widow and Cobraburst were Sam Ash exclusive guitars, where 15 of them were made for the US market and 10 intended for the overseas. So there's only 25 of each of these out there, and they birthed some interesting guitars. That's what makes these interesting and collectible. So now let's talk a little bit about the Cobraburst Finish. Was this the first Cobraburst? There hasn't been a lot of documentation or talk about these. Honestly, just finding a photo of one of these is hard enough. So I'm really happy I got the chance to document this one for the internet to see. Here's what I can tell you. The Cobraburst Finish was first introduced in 2010. I have not seen one from 2009 or earlier, and I've done a lot of digging. So that leads me to believe that this was either the first or inspired very shortly after it was introduced. It's kind of hard to describe what this color is. Cobraburst really does kind of encapsulate what this looks like. It's got a little bit of white in it, it's got some brown, but it's mainly like a palish green with gray and black mixed in. This is the one finish that you can't go, yeah, it's this color with black on the outside. It's just a weird blend, kind of oily in a way. And it seems to work best with a quilty top like this one. But since this R7 in this finish, there's been Les Paul customs that you'll see. There's DC specials, a CS356. Sometimes you'll find it on a Les Paul Access. They've even done a few acoustic models like the J45, and the Eric Church Hummingbird Dark had a similar finish to it. But the cheapest, the absolute cheapest way to get yourself a Cobraburst is through an ESLP. There were a few of them made in that color. So it's not a finish you're gonna see very often, but you can get it outside of this limited edition run. Will it become collectible in the future? Maybe, because it's not a finish that everybody knows about. Not used on every single run, so it is unique in that aspect. But what other animal Les Pauls are out there? Now, I'm not going to say this is a complete list, but the two coolest ones I've already reviewed, the Widow and the Cobraburst. They were Sam Ash exclusives, limited to 25. These other ones were not exclusive to Sam Ash. Since this one was Cobra related, in 2015 Gibson introduced a Rattler Burst, which was rattlesnake inspired. It has an interesting top to it. It looks like rattlesnake skin. But what's kind of cool about that one, they still got the stinger, which is more proper in design in black, but the rattlesnake kind of looks cartoonish. I would have preferred something more realistic like they did with the Cobra. Another one from that same time period is the Centipede Burst. Now that one has a really cool blue finish with yellow binding, and the headstock, the logos are colored over in red. It's kind of an interesting blend of color, so if you like them colorful, that's definitely one to check out. But they kind of left that one out because they didn't give it a headstock stinger, and I think that's like the coolest thing about these. You don't find a stinger on modern day guitars too often. But those ones were also not exclusive. Pretty much every dealer at least got a couple of them, but they were definitely very limited in production. The only other one I could think of right now is the Rhino Les Paul Access. I've also documented that one. It doesn't really belong within this family because it doesn't have a cool Rhino decal on the back of the headstock, but it does have the Apex head carve that looks like a rhino horn. Slash has also had a few snake-themed ones, like his original Snake Pit Les Paul, the Anaconda Burst. And I guess you could include things like the Pink Butterfly Ultima, and you got the Year of the Dog Les Paul, and lastly the Scorpion Les Pauls, but there's no scorpions on those guys. So to learn a little bit more about this one, let's go ahead and throw it on the workbench. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at these pickups here. This one, as I thought it would have, is the Burstbucker 2 in the neck and a Burstbucker 3 in the bridge, but notice the dates on these. This one is January 15th of 2009. This one's October 26th of 2009, so that's almost a whole year apart in difference, but they are stock original to this guitar. The bridge pickup reads about 8.37, and the neck pickup is 7.66 k ohms. Middle position, just for fun, about 4. As the cavities go, just like the Black Widow, it has a historic long neck tenon. And you can see your maple top there joining onto a mahogany body. Nothing too crazy going on in the bridge pickup cavity. The bridge is ABR1 in style. It's drilled directly into the top. It's not on a post or anything. And here's the bridge itself, reading Gibson ABR1. Now the tailpiece, I was a little bit surprised. It's full weight. I'll have to review my Black Widow video to see if this looks the same, but there's no markings on this. I almost think this has possibly been replaced. Just like the Widow series, there was never a pickguard drilled on these because they had beautiful quilted tops. We've got the black speed knobs. And this is not a mint condition guitar. It's definitely been used. There's lots of nicks and dings on the top here, but I gave it a full polish job anyways. Kind of like polishing a pig, but hey, this is such a rare guitar, I wanted to show it off the best it could be. So the neck is made of mahogany, and you still have an ebony fretboard. This is like the last full year of ebony, 2010, because in 2011, it's towards the end of that when they start switching over to Richlight. So that's something that the Widow and Cobraburst has over some of the later made Animal guitars that have Richlight. The truss rod cover is the same 1-ply black plastic as we saw on the Widow. Truss rod's in good shape on this one. We've got the Gibson logo and the split diamond inlay. Man, this headstock cleaned up nice. Spec-wise, 1.69 inch nut width, which increases to 2.06 at the 12th. First fret, 0.85, which beefs up to 1.01. And the traditional 24 3/4 inch scale. And here's the nicest this back is ever gonna look. I just polished this one up too. You definitely have lots of usage marks, some light nicks and dings here, and then lots of heavy scratching down here. It looks like the strap this guy used did a number on this guitar. But now the surface is so reflective, it's kind of hard to show you all of it. But anyways, you can see this one utilizes these tiny little capacitors. My Black Widow had bumblebees in it. However, the wiring for this one looks completely stock. I wasn't 100% sure on the Widow. But here you can see the chambering, very similar to the Les Paul Elegant series. The chamber essentially starts up here, goes around there, and you just have a spot right here for the bridge and tailpiece. So it's lightweight without being too lightweight. It's not the same as the chambering they used on the Les Paul standards. This is the custom shop version. Here's inside the toggle switch cavity too. Just to verify my story, we'll take a look in there too. The output jack plate is black plastic. And moving on to the neck here, I mean, it's got a good size to it. It's not a tiny neck, but I don't think it's quite as big as the Black Widow. We'll have to compare the specs. And the only thing condition-wise here is it looks like this got dinged up against something. Maybe it was something that ate the lacquer a little bit. Now that looks crazily bad, doesn't it? But I'll try to show you. It's really shallow. If you don't like things on the back of the neck, pass on this one. There's also a ding right here on the heel. Back here, CB standing for Cobraburst, and then this one up through 25. So this is pretty much in the middle of the run, 16. And we've got the Gibson branded Schaller tuners. This particular example weighs 7 pounds, 11.2 ounces. Now that we know all about the Cobraburst Les Paul, what are my final thoughts and opinions of it? It's an amazing guitar. It's just like the Black Widow though. They're usually too expensive for players, but if you do have the opportunity to pick one of the 25 up, just do it. It's an awesome guitar. I love it. However, at the same time, I like guitars based on rarity and looks. This one, it has a beautiful quilt maple top with a unique finish, so it checks the looks department out, but I love the unique stinger feature with the decal of the snake, and it plays and sounds the way you would expect a custom shop guitar to be. So it's a big thumbs up for me on this guy. If you're interested in being the next owner of this one, I'm now going to go over the condition. The face of the headstock, you've got lots of polishing swirls. You've got the typical lacquer checking lines around the Gibson logo, as well as the custom emblem. You've got scratches on the truss rod cover. I mean, this is all fairly minor stuff, but it's definitely visible. The top edge of the headstock has some finish wear, as you can see, and some other light edge wear along the edges of the headstock. The nut's in great shape. The frets show next to no wear. I just conditioned and cleaned the frets and fretboard, so you're good to go there for a long time. I love these inlays on this one. So nothing really setup-wise, besides setting it up to your personal specs. Now the top of the guitar, it has lots of light micro dings, and they're kind of hard to get to show up in photos, so I'm going to do my best to run the light over it here so you can see all of these tiny little dents and dings. I mean, the person who bought this one, they did not care that it was a collectible instrument, they just played it. But most of the wear is kind of concentrated down here by the control knobs. Definitely have lots of light nicks and dings pretty much all over the top here. Pretty much all the screws on this guitar are kind of rusty because the guy was a little bit sweaty. So I'm guessing under blacklight we'll see some very green finish here. You've got some pitting to the chrome hardware. I also see a little bit of cracking plastic knobs. It's not a big deal, but it's definitely there. And here you can kind of see those small little dings I was talking about. Backside of the instrument, there's a ding right at the top of the headstock. Now, to me, it doesn't look like there's any wood missing. It's just a small chip out of the finish. So a silver touch-up pen would do the job, but I'd just suggest leaving it alone. Touch-up jobs never look good. The rest of the back of the headstock, I actually didn't bother cleaning that, so there's a little bit of dirt and grime left there. Then the back of the neck. I'm not sure what it was. It might have been like a guitar stand or something, but you can see like some impressions right here. But you've got a few in this area, mainly right there, another one right here, but the big one's right here. Now, it looks pretty scary right now, doesn't it? But the thing is, you gotta view it from a side profile. It's not very deep. So don't let that scare you away from this guitar. I mean, can you feel it while you play? A little bit right here. There's a little bit of a ridge. And you're feeling that right here. But is it enough that I would go, oh, I hate this guitar? Not really. You could also get an experienced luthier to do a little bit of a drop fill right there to minimize that effect. But I do want you to be aware that it is there. But other than that, you just kind of have a small ding like right here on the heel. Backside of the guitar, similar thing going on here. It's got lots of dings and scratches. I wouldn't necessarily call it like buckle rash yet. It's just more like a bunch of isolated scratches. It's especially prevalent down here by the strap buttons. I'm hoping this is, showing up. This is not necessarily like what I would consider collector's grade for a guitar that wasn't like super limited edition, but pretty much any of these will have some sort of collector value, but this one maybe not as much as a mint condition one if you're trying to sell it to a picky collector. You've got some scratches on the back plate here as well, but nothing that really destroys the finish. I would say this is the worst ding right here. Sides of the instrument, I'll be honest, I didn't polish or clean these at all. I'll do the top and front, but polishing guitars, not my favorite thing in the world. So there's definitely some room for improvement here, but you've got pretty much the same type of wear and tear as the rest of the guitar. Some nicks and dings. But I'll let the light do the rest of the talking there. Just as I thought, even though it's a 2010 model, only like almost 10 years old now, it's got a really nice glow because this thing has definitely been gigged. But thankfully, no breaks, cracks, or repairs. I mean, those impressions on the neck and some of these nicks and dings along the edges and sides, I mean, that's the worst part of the condition of this guitar. Back is looking beautiful. No like heavily concentrated sweat areas on this one. We'll take a look at the neck here. Everything is definitely looking the way I would want to see. So it passes the blacklight test. This one still retains its original case. It's got some scuffing here. I haven't tried cleaning that off, but you definitely have some, roughing up right there. I mean, nothing too crazy on this case. I mean, it was gigged, but not necessarily trashed. All the latches are present and functioning, as is the handle here. And the interior for this one, despite being a limited run, they did not give it a special case like the Widow. This one, it's just your standard burgundy style. Double neck rest. You've got all your case candy and certificate of authenticity in here. There's the most important bit. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this Cobraburst Les Paul Custom, you can check out that link in the description to see the Reverb for sale page. Thank you, Troglodytes, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.